Havas kedimim v'yachyeini ledumim v'vekarev hayumim v'vekarev hayumim asher b'nisham v'vaychot.
ברוכות הבאות, ladies. ברוכות הנמצאות. It is such an honor and a privilege to see you all tonight. I know that a lot of you have very, very busy lives, and it's just a week and a half before the awesome day of Rosh Hashanah, where the entire world is being judged. And you're here tonight to honor that day, to daven HaKadosh Baruch Hu with all of your hearts, with all of your souls, and together be'achdut. So many women in this room are from different backgrounds, nationalities, sects, different religious affiliations, and this is what's going to break through Sha'arei Shamayim, the achdut of the Nashim Tzadkaniyot. You have a program on your chair. I'm just going to go over it with you because we're going to start with the tefillot. So, actually, before we do, let me just start with what this evening, who this evening is dedicated for, and we must thank the host and the sponsor of this evening, Ruti Davis. Let's go, ladies, come on. That's better, that's better. Whom without Ruti, this event could not have been possible. She's truly an Isha Tzadikah, someone who's been involved with our organization for quite a number of years and is always looking to further the cause and do so much chasadim, so many chasadim. Ruth Miriam Bat Esther Sorrel, Kadosh Baruch Hu yimaleh et kol mishalot libech letova ulivracha. Should be zoichet to see a year of prosperity, a year of brachot and yeshuot, nechama, mazal, kol ha-yeshuot. Should be able to see nachat from your children and grandchildren, and be zeicha to experience the ultimate day when HaKadosh Baruch Hu will grant you the zechut to see the panim of Mashiach. So this evening, first of all, is dedicated to every single person out there who still needs a zivug hagun. May it be this year is going to be Tafshin Ayin Chet. So we want it should be a year im chatunot, im chibur, with a connection of deep connection b'karov mamash. So to all of those single people out there, also for Yeshua and refuah shlema to a very special and dear girl who is loved by all, and her name is Efrat Bat Shifra Tanya. Refuah shlema. Also for refuah shlema to Alexander Zisha ben Aliza, and also for the continued refuah shlema of Eka Edna Tzipora Bat Devora. For the Chazara B'tshuva, so important, we need that. Look what's going on in the world today. Of Dvora Bat Rachel Leah, Fega Bat Rachel Leah, Shira Bat Rachel Leah, Amram ben Uziel, and all of Klal Yisrael. Menachem ben Esther. Leilui Nishmat, Sarah Bat Mimona Cohen. Sarah was my grandmother, Aleh Shalom, and this organization is named after her. She was such a tzadikah, such a big baalat chesed. So, Leilui Nishmat, and her yahrzeit happens to fall out on Rosh Hashanah. So, Sarah Bat Mimona Cohen, her tzaddik of her husband, my grandfather, Amram ben Mochluf, Ovadia ben Shlomo Menashe, Sarah Rivka Bat Chizkiah Shraga Feivel, and Esther Sorrel Bat Reb Moshe. Your programs. Turn to the tefillah, It starts with Ben Adam. Ladies, tonight you are going to experience a flavor of various tefillot of various cultures. Now, some of you may not be familiar with the nigun. Some of you will be, some of you won't be. The Ashkenazim will be familiar with the Ashkenazic nigunim. The Sephardim will be familiar with the Sephardic nigunim. But it doesn't matter. The point is that you're going to follow. Shi'ur. I'm going to keep it a short shi'ur. It's only going to be an hour long instead of just kidding. I want to sing one song for you, and I want you to, and I have an introduction for this song. Look at this yellow piece of paper here. I want you to stick that on your fridge. This should be your motto for this year, and I'll explain what this is. Several years ago, there was a 16-year-old girl named Rina, an American girl. She was diagnosed, lo alenu, with a terrible, terrible machala. And she decided that instead of living out her remaining years here in the United States, she wanted to devote the rest of her life to doing chasadim in Eretz HaKodesh. So she picked herself up with her parents, and they moved to Yerushalayim, and she started to get involved in as many chasadim as possible. Kiruv Krovim, Kiruv Rechokim, whatever she could get her hands on, chasadim she wanted to do. Even though she knew she was dying. And this wonderful boy, a tzaddik, despite her circumstance, decided to marry her, knowing that she wouldn't have too much time to live. And they lived together for 7 years, and she had 3 kids. And throughout her entire course of illness, she kept a diary. 2 weeks before she passed away, she wrote her last entry. And they found that diary. And based on that last entry, they wrote this song. Pretty much her whole entire last entry was a tefillah. It was all written in Lashon Kodesh, so I have here for you, I want to read you her last entry. I translated it into English, so it'll be easier to tell over. And then I want to sing you this beautiful song from which they took the words from her diary. Listen to the words that she writes. Avinu Malkenu, we come before you like paupers, begging and knocking on your doors of mercy. How can we dare to approach you, Ava Rachaman? It is only for the sake of ridding ourselves of all the unpleasant deeds and thoughts that harm the body and soul. We come before you wishing to eradicate the evil from our midst, and we plead to you in the zchut of David, your servant, who asked, Ve'ata Hashem ad matai. We also come before you in the zchut of the holy Avraham Avinu, who asked you, Hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat. Will the one who judges the entire world not respond with justice? Bochen kelayot valev. You who examine the innards and hearts of men, galui veyadua lefanecha. It is revealed and known to you. She'ani rotza la'avod otcha. All I want to do is serve you. I'm merely a servant to a holy nation who resides on this holy land. Ani mechuyevet lif'ol imcha, which means I am obligated to act in accordance to your will. And I know that my suffering is only for the sake of the geula of your nation, your children, and your portion. But how can I serve you when my limbs are weak and damaged? How will I wake up in the morning? How can I function normally in my home? How will I be able to visit kivrei tzadikim if my eyes do not see well? How can I bring your children closer to you if my body is ill? How can I sing to you and praise you without strength? How can I dance with happiness when my feet fail me? How can I learn the words of the Chachamim when all of me is focused on the pain that I experience every day and the fear that comes over me? How can I shine my light in your world when the enemy within my body suffocates me? I know that you want my avodat kodesh and my tefillot. I know you want the Torah learning of my husband and my pure children. I know that you need avadim ne'emanim, loyal servants who sacrifice themselves for you. Will you not see all the chasadim, all the tzedakah, and all our prayers, and not turn away from us? Will you not see the great awakening of Baalei Tshuva? Will you not see my righteous children still happy and continuing along your path, although they are living in an impossible reality? Can you see all this without having mercy? Please bestow the Yeshua upon us in any way that you wish. Just please bring the refuah shelema bekarov and not al yedei yisurin, because we can no longer manage with this hester panim. We want you to infuse us with healthy limbs so that we can serve you with happiness and love. I don't know what my refuah will be or how I will be able to correct. Only you know the refuah, and only you know the illness. Hakol galui veyadua lefanecha. But if you will not guide and direct me, how will I know what to do? Ki lo tachpotz bemot hamet. We know that you do not desire the death of a person. Ki beshuva midarko. For if he mends his ways and does tshuva, vechaya, you can grant him life. And then her last sentence was, but how can I do tshuva without you? Is this powerful? So I gave you an excerpt right here. This is what she wrote. בוחן כליות ולב גלוי וידוע לפניך, שאני רוצה לעבוד אותך. הנני עבד לעם קדוש על אדמת הקודש. אני מחויבת לפעול עמך. כל תפילותיי, all my prayers, כל דמעותיי, all my tears, נטפו על זה הסלע. They fell onto these stones. For what reason? לגאולת עמך, for the geula of your nation, Banecha, your sons, v'nachalatcha, your portion. These are the words. Put this on your fridge. Look at it every day. And remember, this year, this should be your goal. To be an Eved Ne'eman to Hashem. To keep telling Him, I want to be your servant. I want to be your servant. Listen to this song. Concentrate on the words, ladies. And have in mind, have Rina in mind. Shishavelui Neshama.
בוכה כליות ולב גלוי וידוע לפניך שאני רוצה לעבוד אותך. בוכה כליות ולב גלוי וידוע לפניך שאני רוצה לעבוד אותך. אני עבד לעם קדוש על אדמת הקודש, אני מחויבת לפעול עמך. כל תפילותיי, כל דמעותיי נטפו על זה הסלע, לגאולת עמך, בניך ונחלתך, ונחלתך. לפניך שאני רוצה לעבוד אותך. פוחד כליות ולב גלוי וידוע לפניך שאני רוצה לעבוד אותך. הנני עבד לעם קדוש על אדמת הקודש, אני מחויבת לפעול עמך. כל תפילותיי, כל דמעותיי נטפו על זה הסלע, לגאולת עמך, בניך ונחלתך. כליות ולב גלוי וידוע לפניך שאני רוצה לעבוד אותך.
What powerful words, what a powerful message, especially as we enter into this grand day. The last day of the new year, Erev Rosh Hashanah, is a big subject. Most people who are walking the streets don't understand the importance of Erev Rosh Hashanah. If you have a calendar at home, you should put stars and arrows and fireworks on that day that marks Erev Rosh Hashanah, because that day is a very big day. Most people place great importance on the actual day of Rosh Hashanah, on Aseret Yemei Teshuvah and on Yom Kippurim. Even people who aren't most observant in certain areas of Yahadut are very careful during Aseret Yemei Teshuvah. They try not to speak Lashon Hara. They try not to involve themselves in activities that may place a damper on their Teshuvah. So basically, everybody knows about the magnitude and the seriousness of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. But very few people know about the importance of Erev Rosh Hashanah. So tonight, among the many things that you're going to take back home with you, is that you're going to learn the significance of this great day of Erev Rosh Hashanah. There is a famous midrash which presents a mashal of a city that owed the king a lot of taxes. And the people in the city didn't have the money to pay, but they needed to appease the king. The king was coming with his army in order to collect the taxes, and the people didn't know what to do. They had to come up with a plan. So they decided that before the king even arrives to the city, they're going to send out their noblemen, the Chashava people, so that they can talk to the king and beg him to make it easier on them. And these noblemen went out to the king and they said, Kvod HaMelech, please take into consideration the fact that we don't have the money. Now the king was so impressed with these Chashava men and how they carried themselves and spoke, that out of respect for them, he said, you know what? Really? You owe me $1 million. But because you spoke so nicely and behaved so nicely, I'm going to reduce that amount by 1/3. So now, you only have to pay me $666,000. Well, the nobleman went back to the city to tell the people that the debt was reduced by 1/3. But the people still complained that they didn't have all that money. But meanwhile, the king's getting closer to the city. So they decided to send out all the working class people to meet the king who comes to the city. The king sees all these middle class people waiting for him, and he hears them begging. They say, please, your majesty, you have to help us. Please give us a break and understand our situation. The king was so moved by their tears that he said, you know what? I'm going to knock off another 1/3. Now you're only going to owe me $333,000. The people thanked the king and they went back to the city. But guess what? The people still complained that this amount was still too much for them. How are they going to pay the king? But the king at this point was mamish, almost by the gates of the city. So they decided to send out everybody else. All the lowly people, all the miskanim, all the poor people, all the ones who had a hard life, those people went out to greet the king. They and their children began to cry to him and to consider their circumstance. When the king saw how poor they really were, he said, you know what? You don't even have to pay me the last 1/3 that you owe me. The entire debt is forgiven and you don't owe me anything. This is the famous mashal that the Midrash uses to describe the Yamim HaNo'im. Says the Holy Tur, alav shalom, concerning this mashal. There is a minhag brought down by the Shulchan Aruch that says, Nohagim lehita'anot be'erev Rosh Hashanah. It is written in the Shulchan Aruch that it's a very good minhag to fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah. You hear this? This is unbelievable. To fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah? We fast on Yom Kippur, that we know. We fast on Tzom Gedalia, that we know. Where did this idea of fasting on Erev Rosh Hashanah all of a sudden come into the picture? Since when do we fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah? Chachamim say that on Erev Rosh Hashanah, it's like those noblemen, the noblemen in the story, who went out to greet the king. Meaning the Chashava people fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah. After all, the king is slowly approaching our city. Rosh Hashanah is almost here. So we send out the Chashava people, so to speak, because we owe the king a lot of money. Therefore, these Chashava people fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah, and that's like the nobleman who begged the king to please reduce the debt that we owe him. The question is, who are these aristocrats? Who are these Chashava people that we're referring to? Chachamim tell us that the people who learn Torah or are involved in Torah in some way on a daily basis are considered the chashuva people of our generation. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be sitting in the Bet Midrash all day long in order to be placed in this category, because, for example, during the times of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, alav shalom, if a man only learned 1 hour a day, he was considered an Am Haaretz. But in our generation, where we don't have Tanaim, Amoraim, and we're on a very low spiritual level, anybody who devotes a few hours a day, or even in a week, to learn some kind of Torah is probably considered chashuv, say the Chachamim. You hear this? So on Erev Rosh Hashanah, the chashuvim fast. Why do they fast? Because Hashem is coming, and we don't have anything to pay Him with. So when these aristocrats, they fast, through their fasting, they conjure up rachamim. And guess what? On Erev Rosh Hashanah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes away 1/3 of our sins. Did you hear what I just told you? On Erev Rosh Hashanah, before you even stepped into the shul, 1/3 of Am Yisrael's sins are already forgiven. That's incredible. People think Erev Rosh Hashanah is just a day where we prepare the house, the table, the clothes. But it's one of the holiest days of the year. It's a day where you have the ability to create many yeshuot for Am Yisrael. And Chachamim say that there are even women who fast at least a half a day on Erev Rosh Hashanah. And they say, you could imagine what an impression that makes in Shamayim when the women are not obligated to fast, and they do anyway, at least a half a day. And that shakes the heavens with rachamim. But bear in mind, ladies, that after Rosh Hashanah, we still have 2/3 worth of sins that we have to get rid of. So during Aseret Emet Shuvah, people take all sorts of things upon them in order for Hashem to knock off another 1/3 from their debt. And then finally on Yom Kippur, when everybody is fasting and davening all day long, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes the last 1/3 away. What's my point? I want you to appreciate the value of the last day of the year. Think about it. Erev Rosh Hashanah is equal to Aseret Yemei Tshuva and Yom Kippurim because it removes 1/3 of our sins, which is the same amount that is removed on Aseret Yemei Tshuva and Yom Kippurim. You hear what I'm telling you? That's how important that day is. Therefore, you shouldn't just let the day go by being busy only with the physical items of the Chag. If you could try, fast at least a half a day or even just a few hours. Chachamim tell us that the end of the year is just as important as the beginning of the year. If the last day of the year is good, we give ourselves a zechut towards an upcoming year that will also be good. This is why Erev Rosh Hashanah, the last day of the year, has to be taken advantage of in every way possible. You have the opportunity on Erev Rosh Hashanah to correct many things. Erev Rosh Hashanah should be a day where you boost your level of ruchaniyut, where you settle your accounts, where you try to make things right with people. I would advise every lady here to work harder in the house with all the things you have to, the night before Erev Rosh Hashanah, so that you could give yourself at least an hour during the day or before the Zman to learn. Take a sefer, learn a little bit about the big day that you're about to enter into. Try not to make Rosh Hashanah about the lubia and the beets and the apples and the honey. Rosh Hashanah is not about the new clothes that you're going to wear. It's about introspection. It's about change. It's a good time to give tzedakah and show appreciation to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the blessed year that you had and for the fact that you're actually being given the opportunity to enter into another new year. There are some people we know that didn't make it. They're not going into this new year. So Erev Rosh Hashanah is a wonderful day for you to appreciate all the people in your life who made a difference in your life, who helped you in some way. Call them. Don't text them on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Call people to demonstrate your appreciation. Call them to ask them for mechila. Don't wait till after Rosh Hashanah. Don't enter the new year with old accounts. Remember that the last day of the year counts as much as Aseret Yemei Teshuvah and Yom Kippurim, because 1/3 of our sins is being removed. So try to take advantage of that last day. Make it count. Make it special. Do something that you wouldn't have otherwise done. So with this thought in mind, I want to discuss something that I really came to talk to you about, what I want you to work on this year. The Talmud Yerushalmi discusses a very, very mysterious, cryptic episode that took place with two great Talmidei Chachamim who were living in Eretz Yisrael and happened to be brothers-in-law. They were Rabbi Yochanan, alav hashalom, and Resh Lakish, alav hashalom. These were two spiritual giants of their generation. And the story goes, you gotta pay attention, ladies, this is an incredible, mysterious story. The story goes that these two tzaddikim went to bathe in the hot springs of Tveria, because soaking in the hot springs there was extremely healing to the body. And as they walked through the entrance of the hot springs, they encountered a beggar, an ani. The beggar turned to these two tzaddikim and he says one word to them: tzedakah. So the two rabbis tell the beggar, tzedakah, okay, no problem. We're going into the hot springs to bathe, and when we come out, we're going to give you something. They went into the hot springs. The Gemara does not tell us how long they were in there for, but when they come out, they saw the beggar was dead. He died from starvation and dehydration. Now, I'm going to stop this story for a moment in order to ask you a question that I want you to answer in your minds honestly. If this story happened to you, what would be your reaction? Imagine that you're going into a spa and a poor person asks you, please miss, I haven't eaten in 2 days, would you please give me some tzedakah? And you tell this poor person, no problem, let me just go into the spa, I'm going to have my treatment, and when I come out, I'll give you a couple of dollars. Then you go into the spa, you take care of yourself, and when you come out, you see this poor person dead on the floor. What would be your reaction? Think about that. While you're thinking about how you would react, I'm going to tell you the reaction of Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. When they saw this dead man, they turned to each other and they said, we didn't have the zechut to be there for him in his lifetime. At least we should have the zechut to be there for him after his death. Somebody has to take care of him. Somebody has to clean his body and prepare it for burial. Somebody needs to buy a plot for him. Somebody's going to have to bury him. Someone needs to buy a matzeva that has to be placed on that plot. Let us be the ones to do it. Let us have the zechut to take care of this man after his death. And that's exactly what they did. They took the body and they began to prepare it for burial. And as Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish begin to remove this man's clothes, they discovered something. What did they discover? They realized that in the pocket of this man's jacket, there was a purse filled with gold coins. This beggar was actually a very rich man. Apparently, he was just stingy and he had a little bit of a mental disorder, so he never bought himself food or drink, so he died from neglecting his body. End of story. Ladies, I'm going to ask you the question I asked you earlier. What would have been your reaction if you would have gone into the spa without giving this man tzedakah, and then you came out and you realized he was dead? What would your reaction be? I know what my reaction would be. I would have thought to myself, maybe I'm responsible for killing him, right? You would have thought that? I would have felt guilty for the rest of my life. I would have felt that I didn't have enough rachamim on this poor guy. I shouldn't have waited to give him the money. I would have felt selfish and self-centered, that I took care of my needs and I ignored his. I would have felt horrible. I would have been afraid that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to judge me quite harshly as indirectly killing this man. Right? But interestingly, this is not the reaction of Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. When you read this story of how these two rabbis reacted, it doesn't feel like there was any warmth or compassion in the way that they treated this horrible story. There's not one mention, one word of regret. They didn't display any sign of guilt. What did they do? They look at each other and they said, oh, we didn't have the zechut to be there for him in his lifetime. At least we should have the zechut to be there for him after his death. Is this how Jews talk? You mean to tell me that by taking care of this man's body, digging a grave and burying him, you think that all is forgiven? That's it? Ladies, tonight I came to tell you that this story is actually teaching us one of the most important lessons of life. Because I have no doubt that if Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish really thought that they were responsible for killing this man, they probably would have spent the rest of their lives doing tshuva and feeling regretful for not taking action. However, Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish understood that there's a mission for them to accomplish right here, right now, at this very moment. The man died. So I could do one of two things. I could drown in my guilt. I could feel badly and shameful. I could become depressed and think about what a horrible person I am. But would that help the dead man? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No.
No. A dead person also needs help. He needs a burial. He needs someone to say Kaddish for him. He needs a grave. He needs somebody to study the Mishnayot on his behalf. Of course, I can focus on my guilty feelings, but does that guilt take me away from my obligation of what I have to do right here and right now? What they were teaching us is the following, that maybe they, Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish, maybe they would spend the rest of their lives doing tshuva for what they didn't do for this man when he was alive. But they understood that the mistake that they made cannot paralyze them to the point where they can't function or act upon the moment that's calling out to them right now. Right now, this man needs help. They understood that they can't forget the present just because they made a mistake in the past. Right now, this human being needs them. He died. So they tell each other, we didn't have the zechut to be there for him during his lifetime. That's a mistake that we made. But we're going to have the zechut right here, right now, to be there for him after his death. And what these two rabbis understood is something that we don't understand. Ladies, this is a lesson of life. These rabbis understood that sometimes the Satan disguises himself behind a mask that's called guilt and shame. The Satan comes to you and he whispers in your ear that you're a horrible person. He constantly reminds you of the terrible mistakes that you made in life. And as a result of this terrible Yetzer Hara, you become emotionally paralyzed. You can't do anything. When you're emotionally stunted, it doesn't allow you to respond to the Ratzon of Hashem and what He needs you to do right now at this very moment, because you're too busy feeling badly about the mistake that you made. So Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish thought, guilt? Of course we feel guilty. And we're probably going to be speaking about that feeling for a very, very long time. But right now, this human being who's lying here in front of us, right now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's watching from above, at this very moment, we're being urged from Shamayim to do something about this situation, and we're going to do it. Instead of feeling badly about our mistake, we have time to feel badly about that. Right now, we're going to be there for this man. Chachamim say, you know what happens when you accept this kind of attitude in life? You know what happened to Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish? In the process of responding to the need of the moment, you know what they realized? They realized that they were not responsible for this man's death. They discovered that they didn't kill this man. The man had a mental disorder. He was sick. He had plenty of money to buy himself food and drink, and for whatever reason he didn't. But it wasn't the fault of these two rabbis. That's what they discovered. And that's exactly what happens in life so often. When we remain trapped and stuck in the past, we sometimes live with this horrible guilt until the day we die. But if we can open our minds and hearts to understand how much we're needed in the present, how much we could do right here, right now, you know what happens? Interestingly, we discover that we may not have been as guilty as we thought we were. We may not have been as bad as we thought we were. You hear what I'm telling you? The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh Alav HaShalom says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu recreates the world at every moment. HaMechadesh betuvo bechol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshit. In His kindness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu renews the creation every single day, every moment of the day. What does the Baal Shem Tov say this means? The Baal Shem Tov explains that what this means is that all there really is in this world is the here and now. There's nothing else. There is a spiritual energy that's flowing through you and through the entire world right here and right now. This spiritual energy is alive with newness. So if in your mind you're living with what happened yesterday, what happened last week, last month, a year ago, a decade ago, it doesn't matter what, your body turns to you and it says, hey, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you living in the moment? Why are you living with that, what happened a year ago? Why aren't you smiling and dancing to the music of today? Why aren't you enjoying the preciousness of what the world is offering you right now? Of course you have to learn from the past. And you not only have to learn from it, you have to correct it and you have to prepare yourselves for the future. But the point is that you have to live now, in the moment. You have to open yourself up to the possibilities that are available to you right now at this very moment. Open yourself up to all that positive and spiritual energy that's coming down to this world on a daily basis from moment to moment. Because there's a powerful spiritual energy that wants to embrace you right now, at this moment. But if you're going to remain stuck in the world of yesterday, or if you're going to be too busy worrying about the world of tomorrow, you won't be able to allow that positive energy to affect you today. Now, how does what I'm saying affect you in your daily life? I'm going to give you now a Shalom Bayit, 5-minute Shalom Bayit lesson. Take it to heart. Ladies, after a long day, for those who are married, you go to your room where your husband is waiting for you. What do many women do? They start to talk with their husbands about things from the past. What happened 5 hours ago? What happened yesterday? What happened a year ago? Well, you know who you are, you know. But what would happen if tonight, after the shiur, I hope I'm going to get a lot of calls from the husbands, after this shiur, you would be given the opportunity to date your husband for the first time. Now, I know many of you are married quite a number of years, but imagine that you're now at your mother's house and you're meeting your husband for the first time. What would you tell your husband if you're meeting him right now, this moment, today, tonight? One lady, once I gave the shiur, one lady says, what I would tell him you got the wrong house, wrong address. The Shatchanit made a mistake. Anyway. Bekitzu, you know what you would tell him if you're meeting him for the first time? You would say, oh wow, you know, you're really an interesting person. Wow, you know, you're really smart. All the compliments you would give it on the first date. Ladies, Chachamim tell us, instead of bringing up old wounds or stories from the past with your husband, why don't you allow that moment with your husband to be fresh and new, like you're meeting him tonight, like today? Why don't you give yourself the gift? It's a famous saying, the gift that we call the present, the here and now. You know, most often when you meet your friends, you don't talk about the present, about what's going on right now. Many people are listening to their friends, to their children, to their husbands in the moment of the past. We're not listening now. What you're actually doing is that you're responding to that person based on the memories of the past that you've stored in your brain. And all you're doing when you're talking to that person is continuing that conversation from the last time. You're conjuring up all those memories. How could you forgive? How could you forget? But if you would get rid of all those biased memories of the past that don't allow you to experience the beauty of the here and now, oh wow. You know what kind of life you would have? What if you could look at your children for the first time and stop seeing them from the perspective of the past? What if the attitude that you had towards people was not within the context of the past, but the context of the present? Wow. What an experience that would be. You would be able to change your reality. I want to end with these words. The head of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra is also a world-renowned conductor and composer. He gave a speech a few years ago and he said the following. He said, imagine somebody that's conducting music for years and suddenly he realizes that the conductor of an orchestra doesn't make a sound. Did you ever notice that? The entire orchestra is making beautiful music, but he's actually silent throughout the whole process. Right? The conductor's power depends on the people who he inspires to make powerful. Who are those people? The musicians. Ladies, this idea can change everything for you if you want to make a difference in the world and focus on all the positive influences of here and now, because a woman is the conductor of her home. And like the conductor, her job is to awaken possibilities in other people and help them to achieve. And how would you know that you are succeeding? How would you know that you're doing a good job? You know how you would know? You would know by looking into the eyes of those around you long enough, because you don't today. Today everybody's busy with what? With what? Their phones. They can't even look at their kids long enough in the eyes. The husbands long enough in the eyes. They're busy with their phones. But if you would know by looking into the eyes of those around you long enough to realize that if their eyes are shining, you know you succeeded. But if their eyes are not shining, you need to ask yourselves the following question. And the question you need to ask as a woman and as a mother is, Who am I being right now in the present that my musician's eyes are not shining? Asking that question awakens you to a totally new world. When Erev Rosh Hashanah has come and gone, after we've cried and fasted on Yom Kippurim, after all the celebration, the singing and the dancing that we'll experience on Simchat Torah when Sukkot is over, we have to go out into a new year and we have to ask ourselves the following question. What are we going to become that will allow others' eyes to shine brightly? What are you going to be? Success is not measured by how famous you are or the dollar signs in your bank account. It's about how many eyes light up around you, in your house. This is why staying in the present and living your life in the here and now is such a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is why the manner in which we speak to our loved ones should be in the moment of the present, not the past, not the future. There was a woman who was an Auschwitz survivor. And in an interview, she told the reporter that when she was on the train, those cattle cars, which were transporting her to the death camps, she was 15 years old at the time, and her little brother was 9 years old. And their parents were gone, and they were the only ones left from the family. And she felt that she was responsible now for her 9-year-old brother. And while they're in these packed cattle cars, she looks down as she's standing there, and she notices that her brother was not wearing any shoes. And she started to give him musar. And she said, "What are you, stupid? Couldn't you keep your shoes on your feet? For goodness sake, is this the time now to lose your shoes?" She reprimanded him the way an older sister reprimands a younger brother. Unfortunately, that was the last thing she ever said to him, because she never saw him again. He did not survive the war. And so when this woman managed to survive Auschwitz, she made a promise. She made a neder. What was her neder? She said, "I will never say anything that can't stand as the last thing I ever say." Which means this woman learned one of the greatest lessons of life, and it's the lesson that I'm talking to you about today. This woman was saying, any conversation that I have with anybody is going to be a conversation I'll never regret, because it might just be the last conversation I ever have with that person. I'm never going to tell a child anything that I'm going to regret, knowing that in the back of my mind, it might be the last conversation. I'm going to have a conversation of here and now. Not of the past. Not why did you do this, and why did this happen, and why did that happen. Ladies, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Don't answer. Answer in your mind. And then I'm going to tell you my answer. And with that, I will end. Think. Listen to these questions. What was the most important place you ever visited? Think. What was the most important moment of your life of the past? And what moment would be the most important for you in the future? Who is the most important person in your life that you met? And who might the most important person in your life be that you will meet in the future? You know what the answer is? Chachamim say, the most important place in your life is the place that you're in right now. Right here. The most important moment in your life is the one that you're experiencing right now. The most important person in your life is the one you're talking to right now. In other words, the Baal Shem Tov says, try to imagine that all there is now. If you could live in the now, you would respond differently to people. You would respond differently to yourself. Our thoughts often hold us captive to the past and to the future. But those are just thoughts. So this year you should take your mind out of captivity, out of the galut of the past and the future. Instead, you should open yourself up to here and now, to life, to Chaim. Open yourself up to the possibilities that are awaiting for you in the present world. Otherwise, you're going to miss. You're going to miss everything. What's the most important conversation you're ever going to have in your life? It's the conversation you're having right now, in this moment. Yeh Ratzon, that all the gifts of the present should be utilized properly, so that we should free ourselves from the past and have a brighter tomorrow. May this year be a year of taking advantage of every moment in your present life, and may you see Yeshuot and Berachot unfolding into the future, Be'ezrat Hashem.
אשר בני שייכוי זכוי רהבס כהדימים באחי נרדומים וקורא ביומים אשר בני שייכוי